Hi, welcome to CS170. We're going to have a recorded lecture today because of the weather conditions. Um, I'm going to try to pick up on the HTML, which we were supposed to start last week, but we only had one day of class. So within the Canvas sections, we have these different postings that I've put up. I updated chapter 4 and 7 slides just to account for the homework. And then we also have a job fair announcement. I have some sample HTML, and then I have the chapter 4 and 8 topics for this week. So let's get going here. So before I do the assignment 2, I'm going to go over here really quickly to assignment 1. So the main thing with assignment 1 is just that you have Google Sheets set up. Although, like, you're not really going to use Google Sheets for the rest of the class. I think it's something that is useful to kind of have going just to get your feet wet and also get set up for the rest of your time at Rutgers. So if you go here, uh, you're going to basically upload uh, this assignment 1 answers doc x dot file, right? This is what you're going to save out of your Google Sheets. Okay. Um, and so you go into Scarlet Docs. There's some questions to answer. If you have any question on these, you should just ask your TA or myself after class. But most of these answers should be there. Shouldn't be a problem to get through. And then this is your link to get to it. I'm gonna go back out to here. I also created a link to get into Google Docs or set up for that here. Scarlet Apps. So I click on it. If you don't have it, many of you may already have it since you're sophomores, most of you. You can do to activate Scarlet Apps and go through the directions here or help here. Okay. All right. So for assignment 2, here's the info here. If I go to assignment 2 on the web page, and don't forget, you also have Piazza to ask questions. Um, if you get stuck on something. So you see here, we have the actual assignment info, which is what you see here on the left. Then you have like a file for reference and a file to start with. File for reference is this, right? So it's basically showing you HTML is used to format text before it shows on your browser, among other things, right? But for the purpose of this assignment, you're basically going to use HTML formatting to make it look like this. If you don't, this is the original file that you start off with. You can see I go up here to this down arrow here to download it. I'm going to download it to here, World Cuisines, override. Okay. And what you see is if I double click on it, it's going to look like this on the right-hand side. Okay. It's just some text. It's not formatted. It doesn't look anywhere close to your target, right? Your target is supposed to be what you look like on your left here. Okay. So you have to use HTML to do that. And so if you just double click on it, it'll open up onto a web page and it'll look like that. So what you really want is you want to do edit. In my case, I use Notepad++. You should check with TA. What does your TA recommend? If they have a preference, they might be using Visual Studio. They might be using Atom. You might want to have some experience. You might want to use another editor that you prefer. In my case, I use Notepad++, um, and it comes up like this. Okay, let me just close this out here. Now, the other thing is for you to get HTML, you'll see like this one HTML tag here. But for you to get this working, um, you need to have some sort of HTML skeleton here. And so what I would do, I have a sample HTML file. You also see it in our lecture notes, but here you can just download it. So you can see sample HTML here. So I'm going to click on that, and then I'm going to download it, and I'm going to overwrite the one I have existing already. Okay, it's there. And I'm going to, again, do a right mouse button on it, edit Notepad++, and I have that. And so what I would do is I would copy this and go back to my original World Cuisine HTML. And some of you may have your extensions on your files not visible. So you just have to know that you should have a .html at the end of your file. Okay. Then I'm going to paste here. And then what I would do is take this and paste it into here. And then just so that you can see some sort of difference here, um, I'm going to just put a BR tag here. And then I'm going to save this. Then I come back to here, double click. Okay. So you may or may not see it, but you can see popular world cuisines. It's kind of come to a new line, which is different than what you had before. Before you just had it all continuing one line here. So I made a very simple thing here where I just did the BR tag to make it go to a new line here. That's a line break. Okay. So that should get you going for your assignment. I would suggest you get going on it sooner rather than later. It's not that hard of an assignment. You can get some work done, and if you wait until the last minute, there's usually like a long line to go talk to the TAs. You're not going to get the proper attention, so you should probably get it done sooner, and then you can bring it to your TA. You can ask them if it, looks reasonable. Um, so for example, you might be looking over here and you say, oh, I'm trying to match up to this. I'm not sure what font it is, what size of the text is. You don't have to be, just look reasonably close. It should be fine. But your TAs are grading your assignment. So if you get something like this, you can bring it to them and then they can tell you, like, yeah, that looks right. Um, and you're fine. Or they might say, hey, that's not what we wanted. And, they'll tell you to correct it. So I do encourage you to try to get this done sooner rather than later. That way you can have some time to show it to your TA to get a review on it. Okay. All right. So let's keep on going here. So this is just the right Notepad++, which I was just showing you before. Here's the skeleton I was talking about here. So when you're doing HTML, this stuff up here basically tells you that you're working with an HTML document. Here, there's some header information, which I'll talk a little bit about later. And then whatever you're editing to show up on the browser is within this body right here. Okay. If you look at the directions here, if you look at the directions, it'll talk to you about add a comment with your name and section number within the head tags. The head tags is obviously here, and you can see the head tag here. This green line is what we mean by putting in a comment. So it's a less than sign, exclamation, dash, dash, and then put in whatever the honor code tells you to put in here, dash, dash, greater than, right? So that's what you want to put in for your honor code statement. And this green part on the left and the right is what it means to say it's a comment. That means it's not going to show up on your browser page. You should not see it on your browser. Whatever you want to see on the browser page is within this body tag here. Okay. All these things that are highlighted here, whether it's in the modules or it's within the beginning and end of my PowerPoints, I would say these are kind of the key terms and the things you should practice or understand for your exam. In this case, exam one. If you see anything here that you don't understand, you have questions on, then just let us know. Okay. If you read the book and you go through like our stuff, although the PowerPoints, I tend to focus only on things that I would expect you to see on the exam. There might be some extra stuff, but in the book, there'll be some stuff that is probably uh, less important for you to understand or memorize. So hopefully this will help to highlight things that you should definitely make sure you understand for the exam. HTML5 editor is just like a little workspace that you can go in there. You can type in HTML and then see what comes on the other side. I'm going to just pop it up really quick here. So you can see there's HTML here on the left, and then you'll see it pop up here on the right. So for example, let's say I change this Lucy person to something like that. So you can see over here, it changed from Lucy to Jennifer over here. And um, what you see on the left is basically how it's going to get translated into what you see on the right here. Okay, so you can kind of use this as a kind of a decent reference, but it's not 100% what you want. Just like looking at W3 schools, um, we teach certain things in a class for a reason. If you use any of the other stuff that you might see that hasn't been brought up in class, you might get yourself in trouble. From an academic integrity standpoint, make sure if you have any questions on that, don't just assume it's okay. Just go ask your TA to confirm whether it's okay to submit that or not, right? And if you can't get a hold of your TA to confirm, you can ask me, and I'll tell you whether you're going to get in trouble if you use that for your HTML. Okay. Um, so this HTML, the other thing to be careful is don't just copy and paste what you see here. Don't paste that right into your HTML file and then just submit that. If you remember on our HTML file, we have all these things here, right? That's not coming over when you do your HTML5. So if you just copy and paste that, then it's going to be wrong. Your TA is going to just mark you off and then that's it, you're done, right? So you don't want that. You want to make sure you have all this, your honor code statement, all that kind of stuff. Um, on the assignment, it doesn't really tell you, I don't think it tells you how to do anything on the title here, but you just put something in here, cuisine or something like that. What this does, which I'll show you later in the lecture, is it pops up something into your tab. Okay. So if I go over here, maybe it's hard to see here. I go back to here. Where's my other browser? See, it says cuisine here. Okay. So that's what happens when you put in a title tag. That's what pops up into your the tab of your browser. I'll hit that in a second. Okay. So let's see. So this is something that I'm not going to read through this, but basically it's you're describing some of the things that you get with this HTML, right? Hypertext markup language. Here's some things here. Um, think about this as something that might appear as a multiple choice question on your exam, right? Your exam one. So it might say, okay, what does HTML stand for? Right? And then what are the advantage of doing HTML? Okay. Um, so think of that in that way. That's how you might frame it, because this is a relatively straightforward topic or question, I should say. Um, it's you have a decent chance of seeing this on the exam. So just think of this when you're doing your studying. Okay. So what are the tags doing? Right, tags could be doing a number of things, but for right now, the beginning part of this course, what we're focusing on is using the tag to do formatting. Okay, so I just mentioned the title bit here, um, and then there's a point about the tags, they come in pairs. So if I go back to here, so you'll see all kinds of tags here. Like say this one, TD, right? That's a slash TD here. right? So they usually come in sort of pairs like this. Not always, but oftentimes they do. So whatever's within the pairs, that's what is acting on it. Okay. So let me see here. Blah, blah, blah. Yeah, I'm not gonna do that here. Just gonna leave that out. Um, so for example, let me come back to here. Instead of doing just popular world cuisines, let's say for the sake of argument, I do a B for bold, like that. Oops, that. I'm gonna save it. Let me come back to here, world cuisines. See, it became bold here, right? So before it wasn't bold, or before it wasn't bold like this, now it's bolded up, right? So that's what you get as an example with your formatting from HTML. Okay. There's a repeat of the earlier skeleton that I shared on that file. That's what you're going to use to do any of your HTML pages, but in particular, what you have to do for your homework assignment. Here, this talks about title. So you can see here, title, Rutgers University, the blah, blah, blah. And then you can see up on the tag here. So that's what the title does. Like I said, I don't remember seeing on the assignment any mention of that. So come up with something reasonable again on that. Body, that's where your text goes, right? So I just showed it to you on my example, right? So you can see body, body, okay? And so these are examples here and what they kind of look like. So you have a bold, which I just showed you, and it says hello world, and it looks like that. Okay, so same for all of these. Don't worry, you don't have to memorize all of these. We'll have an HTML reference sheet for the exam, so you get access to that. But just understand it reasonably, so when you do see it on the reference sheet, you kind of know what's going on and how to use that particular tag. Singleton tag, there are some examples of things that don't come in pairs. One of them is a HR tag, which is a horizontal line, and then a BR tag, which is a line break. Which I just demonstrated in my file that I did. And then you have these heading tags. So H1 down to H6. Okay. Now, like I said, this example, one of those things where you might see some different implementations of this in W3 schools or whatever. Uh, don't do that, right? So use what we showed you here. If you're not quite sure between using H1, H2, or whatever, try to do something so that it visually looks close for your assignment. Again, if you don't really know for sure, just show it to your TA and just mention your concern that you're not quite sure. Is it going to be okay to submit for your assignment? And then they should let you know whether it's good or not. Okay. White space, uh, it's not what you see, it's what you get. So you can see up here, all of this, you would think like, oh, I'm making my HTML file look like what I want to see on the browser. So I'm going to do some carriage return and do whatever. The problem is HTML is not going to recognize that. Your browser is not going to recognize that. Um, so it's going to get all squished together just like this. Okay, so you want to get things like separated out like this. You have to use your tags such as like BR for your line break to make a carriage return to the other side, things like that. This talks about like using an editor. Like I said, I use Notepad++. Your TA might have some other preference. Just double check with them. Here you can do the browser and the editor side by side. So you can make your changes, save it, and then refresh in your browser, and you'll see the changes reflected. Um, this one might be safer, I guess, if you want to do it for your assignment. Because like I said in the past, some people have used the HTML5 editor. and then it just copy and pasted the whole thing into your HTML, which is not correct. Um, so if you want to do something for sure, when you submit it to your TA, they'll take it for scoring. You can do this. So you do the editor, it has your HTML with the skeleton I provided, um, and then just save it and then refresh it on your browser. Okay. Uh, Not a big deal. So I would probably do it, especially for this first assignment. You don't need to get into anything fancy with the first assignment. Again, this is something you don't really have to worry about for your first assignment, but as you do something more complicated, you can use this HTML validation tools. There's a whole bunch of them. This is just some examples here. W3 Schools has one that you might be able to use while you're doing some lookup for particular topics and whatnot. This is some more tags that you'll be able to just take a look at. Probably overlaps. It just talks a little bit more about like the meaning and stuff like that, but it's probably like a lot of overlap with the other reference sheet that I showed you here. And then you have these basically lists here, right? And I'm going to be going through that in a second here. Okay. Again, this is mentioning about how you do a comment. This is showing you example of these different types of tags here, but also showing you that this is where we put the content within the body tags here. Okay. So attribute would be here, something like car set equals to UTF-8. Okay. There's other bits of information that you put within like either the head or throughout the body that will help your search engine optimization. So that's if you have a website, you want your website to kind of pop up near the top for your search engine optimization. That's where you can put some of that information in there. Something like this, you don't have to use it that often, but if you're doing something where you're trying to show something on a page and it happens to overlap with some like reserved words or characters. For example, you have this single quotation. So sometimes we had to put stuff related to formatting within a single quotation, or we want to display a single quote for real, right? That's part of the text. So HTML might get confused when you do that. So if you want to, make sure the HTML recognizes that you want to just display let's say in this case, a apostrophe, um, you basically would put in this ampersand sign, APOS, semicolon, and then HTML will know that you want to display that special character rather than um, use that for like another HTML formatting reason. Okay. All right. So we're doing lists here. So you can see this is what we call unordered list, which means that it'll just show these dots here or these bullets in front of the list item. So in this case, we're just trying to list some football teams here. So I look at it as a sort of like a container. So we have a UL tag and a closing UL tag. Each of the items within the container, I have to like put in this LI tag. Right, so New York Giants, and I put LI and then a closing LI tag. And if I follow that format, what you'll get is what you see on the bottom here. Okay, so you get the three teams with some bullet points next to it. Right, so that's what it means for UL. And then no matter which list you're doing, whether it's UL or OL, each of the elements needs to be surrounded by a LI tag. Okay. In this case, looks very much the same as the prior example, except now it's using OL instead of UL. And the only difference would be instead of bullets, it shows 1, 2, and 3 over here. For the purpose of this class and what you'll probably see on the exam is something like this, what we call a nested list. They call it a sub list here. So you have a UL, right? That's these two bullets right here on the outside. And then within that, you'll see New York, and then you'll see like Giants, Jets, and then Philadelphia, you'll see Eagles. So you'll see underneath the New York, you'll see the Giants, Jets as a OL means 1 and 2. And then you'll see Philadelphia, that's a UL, That's why you only see a bullet here, and then you see eagles. Okay. Now we have this definitional list here, which I believe is also in the book. Um, I have seen it on the exam from time to time, but most of the time I don't actually see this. So it's good to know what this is. But if I had to prioritize what you need to make sure you know, it's this LI, not the LI, OL and UL, right? Ordered and unordered list. Um, you might see this on the exam, but I doubt it, right? More of a chance you will definitely see this. So here you can see it follows a similar type of format, except you'll see that you have within the elements, you have like a Superman, let's say here, and then you have the indent to see the able to leap tall buildings, right? So it looks something like this. Okay. So it's out there just because periodically it does appear on the exam. I'm just saying that it doesn't really happen that often. So handling tables. So tables, you can kind of see it follows a similar type of thing where I have the quote unquote container, which is your table. And then within that, each of the rows, just like on your UL and OL, is LI tags. In this case, you have TR tags. Okay. Now, because it's like more two-dimensional, then you have to worry about like each of the elements within here. So this one will be weekend escape, two breakfasts, and whatnot. And so there's where you have these TDs or data elements within there. Um, in this case, you'll see the TH. All the TH means is that it's basically this top row here where you see things are bolded up, maybe a little bit bigger. Um, and so that's what the TH is for. Okay. It's almost like the equivalent of like the H1, H2 in your normal text, right? So when you specify that, it kind of makes it up bolded or bigger. Now you have the table within here. We have those attributes. Remember, we saw the attribute for the UTF-8. Um, here you see table and border equals to 1. So that just makes like all these borders appear on the table. Okay. If you want thicker borders, then you can say border equals 3 or 4 or something like that. So this kind of talks about what that is. I talked about the table heading, TH. The other one is this caption here, and then call span. Okay. So when we do that, you'll see, notice the border equals to 1, and then you notice caption. Bilingual countries. Okay, so bilingual countries, you have the top here. It appears outside the table on top of it. Um, and so that's what we do when we do a caption here. The other part you'll see is the TH with the call span. So you see what it does here? You see languages and it spans across the Dutch and the French, right? These two columns here. Um, so that's what it means to do a call span. It means to span across two. You could have changed this to be three, and it'll span across all three columns. There's an equivalent to this on the row side, which will be called row span, and it goes down this way. I'm not going to cover in this lecture, but I'll probably end up covering as part of preparation for the exam, because you might see that on the exam. Okay. All right. So with that, let's continue on for your HTML. Okay, so the first thing on HTML we have here is absolute reference. That's basically the URL. Okay, so if in this case, they're using www.biyo.com, and so that's your URL. Okay, just like I do Amazon, www.amazon.com, right? So that's what absolute reference is. That's your full path. If you want to do a relative path, that means like it's local to your computer. So if you're doing your homework assignment and you have some pictures or something that you want to point to from your page within your HTML, you can do something like this. You see it kind of has a / bios.sci/russell.html, right? This is something only you can see because it's on your computer, right? There's no one from the outside that's going to be able to see this. So they would never do that. They would always use this full path or URL which is called the absolute reference. So this is talking about relative reference here, and this is talking about like a file structure, right? So if I had my own computer, which all of you have on your computer, if you look at your file system, um, you'll see almost like this tree or hierarchy of stuff, right? So you have a folder, you have some subfolders and stuff like that. So if I needed to access this information from my own personal web page, and a lot of times you'll see that we do our web pages with index.html. So within that, we will go to whatever picture or page that we need to go to. So in this case, um, we're going to have your index HTML, and I'm just going to go over here where it says gif.html. So you see agif.html is in the same folder as the index HTML. That means I don't have to do anything. So if I want to get to it, it's in the same folder as me. So I just type agif.html and I'll get to it. But if I want to go to fun HTML, you can see it's not in the same folder. It's down in LOL cat folder. So you have to type lolcat/fun.html, and that gets you to that folder. So oftentimes I try to maybe open up like this file explorer so I understand where my file is that I'm trying to get to. And then I work out something like this, right? So if I'm here and I can see the file I want is down here, then I have to do the name of the folder /. And in this case down here, tabby.html, you can see it's a subfolder of lolcat. And so that's why I have lolcat, friend, and tabby.html. So that works my way down this tree or hierarchy. Okay. Then if I want to go up, so let's say I'm at tabby.html here at the bottom, and I want to get the fun HTML, which is in the folder above it. Then I do /fun.html to get to it. And likewise, I have a double here if I want to get up to here to your gif.html. Okay. So this is all about relative path reference, right? And that's, basically all these slashes say relative to the file, right? In this case, tabby.html, it tells it where to go. In this case, it keeps on going up the tree. This was the example of it going down the tree. Okay. All right. So the last bit for your basic HTML intro is making hyperlinks, which is one of the big things that you get with HTML. You're able to link to other pictures, to sound files, or to movie files, or to other websites. So in this case, you can see there's the main parts here, right? You see Bertrand Russell here. This blue part, which most of you probably will recognize, is your hyperlink because you click on it and then you'll go to, in this case, this page here. So the Bertrand part, that's just your regular text, right? So it's normal. And then you have this A tag, and then you have your full URL within quotes. And then that's what they call your hyperlink reference. And then this part right here, your anchor, when you put that within the A tags, that basically tells it that it's a clickable reference and makes it this blue color. You can click on it and you'll go to this website here. And then you close it off with a /A tag like that. Okay. So that's what you'll get with these things with the hyperlink reference. This is like a very common feature of a web page on the internet. Okay. So you want to see more examples, you can go into W3 Schools, and then it'll talk you through whether it's like HTML, path reference, things like that. Like I said, if there's any doubt on something that is being taught to you or you were reading in W3 Schools about whether you can actually use that for your homework assignment, uh, don't just assume that it's okay because you found it there. You should go to your TA or myself to confirm it's okay to use that. Okay? If you can't do that and you just assume and you submit it in, uh, don't get upset if you end up losing points on it, all right? Because I'm telling you, and all the other teachers are telling their students that that's what they should be doing. Okay, you have to use the content that's taught in class. Any exceptions to that, you need to run it by your TA or myself. Don't just assume saying I saw it on W3 Schools that you can submit it based on that. Okay. All right. I know I went through this lecture pretty quickly. I'll probably hit on some of these points again on the Wednesday lecture. I would suggest for the Wednesday lecture that chapter 8, there's a number of new topics. It's pretty lengthy. I would suggest at least taking a skim through the PowerPoint or reading up on it in the book a little bit before you show up to lecture. That way it's not totally new to you, and you'll be able to digest the content a little bit better. Right? It's harder to digest the content when you're just seeing it out of the blue for the first time. So with that, we're going to wrap up this lecture, and I will see you on Wednesday. Thank you.